Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Captain here, and welcome back to Space Engineers. Yeah, not quite, actually. It's Space Engineers 2. We've got, finally, the official announcement. Space Engineers 2 is on the way. There's a teaser trailer, and there's a big announcement on when they're going to have more information, which is going to be later in December. But I wanted to talk about what we've got right now, because a lot of you guys have been asking for it. Space Engineers has been kind of a mainstay on this channel since it released back in, 2013.
Space stuff, spaceships, space stations, you can build inside asteroids, but you can build ships, and it has a physics engine. Like, that's a full ship right there in the background. So you hit G to open up your build menu. Let's say we want to start a small ship.
I remember us doing those early videos talking about it. I remember following it on IndieDB when it was very first announced, and then when it dropped in that early alpha version that didn't have multiplayer, didn't have most of the tools, it was just survival. So what do we have coming? Well, Space Engineers 2, like you can see the background, this is the teaser. The biggest thing that everyone's talking about is the new multi-grid sizes. So we've got the tiny little grid blocks where we can customize and decorate our ships, and then we can actually copy those and paste them somewhere else and save them. This is pretty cool. I've made so many small grid gone wild ships. All the series we've had, the Skyforge was one of them when we played with Tex for like a couple of years, where we were building these highly detailed ships that you could make out of small blocks you could never pull off with the large grid. And now we're gonna be able to combine these, which is cool. All right, that's fine. But I'm real curious, and we haven't seen any gameplay on how this is gonna work for, well, gameplay, the mechanics of it. If we can build small grid, even tiny grid, I'm gonna call it, these small blocks, what kind of level of machinery can we make? Can I build like a full piston for a fairly small vehicle? How are hinges going to work? And we haven't seen much in the way of the physics other than classic Space Engineer, like 1 release. Let's just ram into stuff and break stuff. And that has me a little bit worried, but we'll get into my concerns and then some things that I hope they add to Space Engineers 2 coming off of the wonderful modding community from Space Engineers 1. They're also adding, well, if you haven't noticed, look at the lighting on this. It's gorgeous, right? Some kind of ray tracing going on. The lighting in Space Engineers has always been a major complaint for anybody who's ever put too many lights on or had light bleed through walls, which is a major problem because the light just doesn't know that it's there. Well, that seems to be fixed now with the new V-Rage engine, or at least that's the direction they've been going. Also, the textures on asteroids look fantastic, and I like the new suit models. Very like, hey, this is the blue ship, this is the red ship, there's the original base from that first release of Space Engineers. It all looks very similar to that, right? And that's kind of what's got me whirled. And the other thing that we've seen is the damage. We've seen the new, like, here's a block that is not an armor block, but an actual, like, function block, yet it has damage, like, it breaks apart, right? I wouldn't say damage states, but it breaks into pieces. I'm imagining this is working like the block has hit 0 health and now it just kind of falls apart. Maybe not. Maybe this is like it's taken damage, but you can still repair the base bits of the block. Again, we haven't seen that gameplay. All we've seen is survival gameplay. Or excuse me, all we have seen is creative mode gameplay, where you can just place blocks and they just appear. And that's not how I play Space Engineers most of the time. I'm all about survival mode and all the mods to add layers and difficulty and challenges to it, because you kind of have to do that. Because Space Engineers, there aren't a lot of challenges to begin with once you get the basics for the basics for the crafting down. So, what are the, oh, and they also revealed in the teaser the paint gun, which does exactly what it says on the tin, and it looks like the exact same style tool as the paint gun from the paint gun mod, right? You point it at a block and you paint it, which has been super useful and always ends up in my load order for most of my games, because in vanilla Space Engineers, if you want to paint a block that's kind of behind another block, or the grid is kind of covering it up slightly, a lot of half blocks are like this, you just can't get to the block behind it to paint it using the normal tool. Well, the paint gun mod that lets you shoot at a block and interact with it where the normal tool doesn't allow you to. And that's what they've shown in the teaser here, which is cool. I have no problem with them looking at mods that have like been successful. People, honestly, the audience wants this functionality. Let's bring it into Space Engineers 2. It's a good idea. That being said, if you're gonna show off any mod kind of being ported over, can we please get build info and build vision, bring those over so that we can look at a block and tweak its settings without having to go through a control panel? Oh, and if you're looking for an old school mod that you guys broke ages ago, I would love to see immersive interactions where you like pull a cable out of your wrist monitor and plug it into the block that you're changing. It always gave us an idea of who and what you were like working on from our multiplayer series that we used to have, where that mod was so good. It was just such a neat thing. You could literally see the wire sticking out. Anyways, I don't even know if I can find footage for that because it doesn't work anymore. So if you don't see it here in the video, that's the problem. It's somewhere on the channel, but it doesn't work in the modern version of Space Engineers. So the concerns with Space Engineers 2 from the teasers we've seen so far, they're really harkening back to that initial release of Space Engineers, where the game had no survival mode, no multiplayer, half the blocks weren't in the game. It was truly an alpha state game. At least now we can go back and play Space Engineers while we wait for updates for the sequel to come out. But yeah, if they come out the same level that Space Engineers 1 was, it's gonna be real tough to find something to do or even worth testing. The space has changed fundamentally since the release of Space Engineers 1, when people were coming off of Minecraft and being like, yeah, that's fun to build stuff, but I want a physics engine. I want to be able to build vehicles. And so showed up Space Engineers, right? The game that was like, we're never gonna have planets. Oh, good times. That first day when the servers came out, I will never forget how many players jumped into the server and then beelined it to where all the players were, because they used to come up on your UI, and then didn't understand how braking thrust worked. They'd start with the starter ship, and then you just run into whatever people are building because you can't stop. They didn't know how to stop. And it happened so many times that first night. But that's my big worry, right? Starting all over, but with a new engine. How long until we get to the bare bones of survival, of building stuff in Space Engineers? And then the next problem, Space Engineers 1 just got something to do, sort of, for their PvE, their challenges, right? For Space Engineers 1, for almost 99% of its life, we've had to create our own challenges, something to build against, to engineer around. I need to solve this problem. Maybe it's Reavers using the spawns of the MES system. Maybe it's the old Orc mod, right? So you have threats to go fight, or maybe it's survival stuff like salvaging gameplay. We did a couple of salvage series here on the channel. That's kind of what you end up having to do, is make your own challenges and fun, which is fine. Definitely Space Engineers I always thought it needed something to do, and we're not seeing any steps in that direction so far in the teasers of what are we gonna be doing in Space Engineers. What are you guys adding as the gameplay loop, other than just building stuff that there are no problems to solve? Engineering is about solving a problem, right? You're building something for a purpose. That purpose can be entertainment, but you need a purpose. You need a box from which to struggle against. Overall, I'm still really excited for Space Engineers 2. Like, it's an updated engine. It looks better. If it runs better and allows us to engineer some fun stuff and has the open modding that we've always had in Space Engineers, then we could be having another decade worth of fun here on the channel with friends, playing and building and telling stories. Please keep the Machinima tools. You guys have been a wonderful Machinima box for all of these years, for all of the creators out there who either create using the game's blocks or create using the game as a set and a tool set for making awesome stories and videos. There's a whole sub-community of Space Engineers that's just literally like video editing and production, which has always been a really fun. I've met some of my best friends on YouTube and in real life now because of Space Engineers and those tools. So hopefully Space Engineers 2 continues that process. But what do you guys think? Are you looking forward to it? What did you see in the trailer that I might have missed? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments. And of course, later on this month, we should be seeing the proper full reveal, whatever that is. Hopefully it's not just another teaser, because they keep saying we're revealing stuff, and then a teaser drops, and the teaser teases another teaser. This is what's happened this last couple of weeks. And then it reveals that there's another trailer coming, and if it's another teaser, I'm throwing my pin at you, Keen. What the hell's wrong with you? All right, everybody. Thanks for watching for all these years. Hopefully we have more fun in Space Engineers, and I will see you next time. Later, everybody.